In this video, you'll learn how to manage chapters in Kotobee Author. So with a blank ebook, at the left side of the screen, this area is where you manage your chapters. Now by default, when starting any new book, you have a single empty chapter. Now if you want to add further chapters, you can do so by clicking on the button saying New Chapter. It'll ask you whether you want a reflowable layout or fixed layout chapter. Now you can understand better the difference between these two from the video that we created explaining the concept of both layouts, and it's worth understanding before you proceed. So we're going to choose reflowable layout, and you can see it created a new chapter. We can create a third chapter. Now every time you create a chapter, it will ask you for the layout. You can set a default by checking on Don't Ask Again and choosing the default one that you'd like. Okay, now if you created a fourth one, it will not ask you anymore. If you want to go back and select the fixed layout, you can do so by clicking on the arrow here, Add Chapter from Layout, and this will remove the default, so it will come back again every time you add a new chapter. So we'll add a fixed layout chapter. Okay. Now you can select the chapters from here and enter the content in the center area. At the bottom of the edit area, it tells you the type of layout that you have. So we have a reflowable layout, fixed layout. Now with fixed layout, you have more options, like the width. You can set the width of the page and the height, because a fixed layout has a fixed width and height for the content. If the content increases beyond the width and height, it will be trimmed out. You can set a grid so that it helps you with design, and you can check snap so that elements snap to the grid. Now back to the chapters. You can add subchapters by clicking on the plus sign beside the chapter name. Similarly, we'll set the default to reflowable layout. Okay, and you can add several subchapters. Inside these subchapters, you can also add further subchapters. So the nesting in Kotobee Author is unlimited. You can have very deep nesting if you like. Now you can see that Kotobee Author automatically sequences or adds the numbering to your chapters, but of course you can rename them as you wish by just clicking and editing the chapter title here. Okay. Now you can, from the bottom, you have some options to arrange the chapter navigation or sequence. So we have this chapter that's a child of a chapter, which is also a child of another chapter. Now we can choose this if we want to move it beyond this scope and have it at the top. You can do so from here. You select the new parent chapter. So root is the top root level, and you can see it's now not a child anymore of any chapter. You can arrange the chapters, arrange upwards and downwards from these buttons. So you can take this to make it the very first chapter. And finally, you can delete the chapter. Now for parent chapters, basically, a parent chapter is any chapter that contains other chapters, so it contains subchapters. You'll see that you have two buttons here next to it. Now, the description is pretty self-explanatory, but let me also explain it. Create a chapter guide will basically create a table of contents for all the listing all the subchapters under that chapter. So click on it, and you can see it put the title of the chapter along with links to each subchapter. Now, in the case of fixed layout, because this is a fixed layout chapter, it created the table of content or the chapter guide inside a container box. You can only place text in fixed layout inside a container box. But if we go to if we go to a reflowable layout and just create a few subchapters here, then create a chapter guide, you can see that it's just plain text that's standard formatted, so on. Of course, you can edit this, so you can add some footer text, you can change the title, you can change the layout, you can add an image and so on. This is just something to help you to adjust all the links for you and so on. You can delete it altogether if you want. Okay, and then something very important as well is showing the content, which is also the same as this option down here. Basically, let's type something. This is a parent chapter. Let's go to customize to preview the chapter, preview the ebook as a whole, see what it looks like. Okay, now that's the parent chapter right here that we just created. If you click on it, you can see it shows the content of the parent, and then at the same time it expands to show its subchapters or its children. Now you may want to just expand without showing content, so you want it to be like a folder instead of a chapter. Now that's exactly what this option does here. So if you check on it, you can see even at the bottom it removes this check, so it does not show the content anymore. Go back to customize. Open the chapter panel. Now if you click on it, you see it just expands. It's just like a folder. And that's basically it.